Hey everyone, I'm Clue, and boy, I've been having some pretty bad timing this week. So I've had like five videos I've had to just delete and redo / tweak because all the questions and concerns that I've talked about in those videos have essentially come out this week, including the lore articles, the rest of the spoilers, and now the rule reprise. So previous video to this, which I am still going to let air despite the rules coming out the day of it, is regarding the Evos. Okay, so my biggest confusion or point of confusion is stacking Evos and how they add up to the count, right? So in terms of singularity and any of the Evo cards that work off of requiring X amount of Evos, I'm sure there's going to be some here surely, because they must go through it. I guess not. Okay, that's worrisome, because yeah, no, I'm still iffy on the count. Basically, right, this has 2 or more, 3 or more, and then 4 or more, right? If each Evo just occupies one of the equipment slots, then personally, there's no reason whatsoever to say 4 or more, right? It should be 2, 3, or 4, right? The more for 2, 3, and 1 pertain to the fact that you can have 4 and still get these bonuses along with 4. But my only rationale for 4 or more is if stacking Evos through the Evo Soul, the Steel Soul, right? Because these are base Evos, and the Sentry set count as different Evos. So for instance, in the head slot, if you were to go, say, Cogworks into... I didn't see this got added. So the Techlo Heart is getting reprinted. Interesting. So that's a little bit better, rather than just the Founder Spring Tunic. Another thing I have to tweak, because I'm pretty sure I talked about there only being one card, right, reprinted, and that was a little bit of a gripe, but obviously we now have the Techlo Heart, although that was sort of an expectation. Anyway, back on topic. We have Cogworks base set, right, into Steel Soul, into Sentry, into Steel Soul, into Sentry, into Steel Soul, into Sentry, into Breaker. Okay, so potentially you could have 7 Evo cards on the head slot, and whether or not that counts as one Evo, right, just one Evo equipped, the topmost Evo in one sense, and that's probably what we're going for. But then again, the 4 or more, there's no reason for 4 or more unless that's the case. Unless, I mean, it's simply because we have the Macropotent, you burn all your gear, and then you re-equip, and then you restack up Evos, and then suddenly you have 4 or more because he's one Evo. But personally, right, there's 2 main outcomes, depending on what these rules say. So 1, all this is pointless, and won't really see a whole lot of competitive success, to me at least, right? Because a big thing when it comes to competitive play is consistency will always beat out power creep. Okay, so regardless of how strong these effects could be, if you get 4 or more, if you require having an Evo in every single slot, right? What that does is it diminishes your ability to run multiple copies of the same Evos. So Steel Soul, you want to run multiple copies because they have such a strong effect. You want to play them on top of each other, right? You want to bounce them between Steel Soul and Sentry so that you can get continued procs of their abilities. If you're doing that, if you're running 3 copies of both, right? So 6, you then have, what is that? 4 by 6, you have 24 cards to sift through in order to find 4 unique pieces per slot to then trigger the 4 or more, 3 or more, 2 or more, whatever you're going after, right? So in that sense, I would disregard all of the 1 or more, 2 or more, 3 or more, 4 or more mechanics and simply run the Evos for your ability to bounce back and forth, right? So just go Steel Soul into Sentry, back and forth 3 times, and then into Breaker. To me, Breaker seems like the strongest set so far. And the other possibility is if they do count all in one slot, then all of a sudden it's the opposite. These are incredibly easy to trigger, right? So again, if you stack up 7 different Evos on the head slot, just transitioning through them, if that counts towards the 4 or more, then all these cards become consistent and we'll see lots of play, right? Which is the upside I would probably want, right? I want the cards to see play. I don't want them to be gimmicks, right? I love powerful cards that are actually functional, right? Rather than this cool gimmick that, you know, we'll see here and there, but we won't ever see really in the competitive scene. So let's just read the rules and see what exactly it goes over. Though I am a bit worried because obviously there's nothing that's really hinting at what I'm talking about. Now, is there? So we have which cards go into my main deck and which cards do I equip at the start of the game. Well, that's pretty self-explanatory. Equipment, not equipment, right? You can tell by the border. Don't think we need to go through that. Can I defend with Evos from hand? Yes, so they have the block slot. Oh, actually, no. So you can defend with it, with the exception of defense reactions, which must be played. Evo cards and bright lights have two different types. So either action equipment or instant equipment. Both can be used to defend in this way. They can be considered both an action instant card and equipment card. But so the big thing is just if they're equipped, can you defend with them? If you have an action equipment Evo equipped and an action equipment Evo in hand, you'll have to decide between them which one you want to defend with, because you can't defend with both. They're both considered action cards. Or even when equipped, for example, abilities like Overpower. Okay, so Overpower, Dominate, all those cards that affect action cards now affect the equipment cards, but in a normal setting, which should really be somewhere here, right, you can defend with it. Even just this tagline. Yes, you can defend with both cards in hand or cards in play, right? Because this just is a little bit confusing. Again, that's probably the biggest clarification that is needed. You can defend with hand, you lose the card, or you can have it equipped and defend with it, in which case it triggers the Blade Break, the Battle Worn, or the Temper abilities on the piece of equipment. So for instance, you could still defend with the Evo Zoom Call, but it defends for 0. So why would you? How do I transform an equipped Evo? Evo cards all follow a simple pattern to resolve. Put the base card physically underneath the Evo, then put all of them together in their respective equipment zone. To get a successful transformation, Evo cards require that you have the corresponding base card equipped. You can still play Evo cards even if you don't have the base equipped, but nothing will happen and the Evo will go to the graveyard. Okay, another issue with this. Does not go into the Steel Soul Memory and the Sentry set, because another point of contention, I'm going to definitely assume these are going to go over a lot of people's heads right in the beginning. Obviously, there will be people who can understand it, but, you know, in a broader sense, if this is the big gimmick that is being introduced with the set, everything should be absolutely crystal clear, right? So, for one, this tooltip, you can defend with both. This, you can either transform the starting gear, or if you play a card like Sentry or the Steel Soul Memory, you can then transform them again, right? Because I'm not reading that anywhere here, and I might be glancing over it because I'm not reading the whole thing, but I'm pretty sure, right? It just refers to them as base, but it doesn't actually clarify what the 5 sets of base equipment are, right? Because again, you have the Cogworks, you have the Teklo, you have the Proto, you then have your Steel Soul Evo set, still base equipment, right? It has base on there, and your Sentry set also have base, right? And that's really important to clarify. What happens to counters or effects when a base is transformed? When a base is transformed and put under another card, it essentially resets. It becomes a fresh card and loses all of its counters and effects that applied to it before it was transformed. Okay, why are we using reset? When I think of reset, right, it means playable again to me. It becomes a fresh card and loses all of its counters and effects that applied to it before it was transformed. But it's not saying it loses its ability. So can you activate multiple things? I'm sorry, but this article is not going good. To me at least, right? Okay, well, can I prevent on my base by transforming it? Yes, if you declare your base equipment as defending card, you can wait until the damage is calculated and then transform it in the resolution steps or any of the instant ones, right? By doing so, the base equipment is transformed and is no longer defending on the combat chain. If it gets that it defended, the Evo is transformed into equipment. This is a great one to clarify, right? Because this is something I didn't even think about. In respective equipment zone and does not automatically become a defending card on the combat chain, right? So you have to make sure to do everything at the damage calculation step, right? So everything is reduced, and just before you get or you distribute counters or activate any of the triggers, you use the instant proc to clear it, right? What happens when an Evo is destroyed or banished? When Evo is destroyed or banished or otherwise leaves the arena, any cards underneath it are cleared away. That means that the sub-cards are put into their respective owner's graveyard. Sub-card is a token, it doesn't go into the graveyard, it ceases to exist. That was also something that was kind of crystal clear, but I can understand the dilemma, right? Whether or not just the top card gets destroyed and you have to break through all of them. Are tokens under an Evo considered cards? Yes, a token, yes. Okay, so with the breaker set, you want tons of cards under it. Again, Evo Steel Soul, Evo Sentry, they're your main fuels. The Hyperdriver is just a little bonus. So, I don't know. This is probably what we really want to talk about, but I think they're missing a lot of key points and a lot of key thoughts that may cause some contention. So hopefully we get another one and some better clarification. So with the latest demi-human, players now have the ability to transform their hero into Mecha Potent by playing Singularity, putting 6 cards, 6+ cards. Yeah, so you put the whole stack, right? So you can put the whole stack, and 4 of their equipped Evos. The issue here is, again, we're not diving into the things I brought up. And I don't know if that's because they're crystal clear and obvious, but then we have, again, the terms like reset. It becomes a fresh card, not it loses its abilities. It's just, it resets. Yeah. So he is Shadow, but you can't have Shadow cards in your deck. It's just flavorful, which is stupid to me, right? I would have loved it so much more if you could have Shadow cards in your deck, but you can't actually play them unless you're Mecha Potent, right? Because that makes sense. Your current hero isn't Shadow. I mean, yeah, that's what I would have liked to see, but it's fine, right? However, because you start the game with Teclovison, you can't have Shadow cards in your card pool. Sucks. Oh well. Missed opportunity for a little bit of fun. The Mecha Potent is the first hero to have attack and defense properties, in addition to blah blah blah. So you can just use it as you would normally. You have to pay to attack like a weapon, and you can defend like normal equipment. Mecha Potent has an activated ability that allows it to attack at the cost of resources. Yeah, so that's bash cards, that's fine. Defending is now also an option because he has the equipment type, right? He's not counted as an action card anymore. Lastly, Mecha Potent has the ability that reads as counts. Yeah, okay, so this has just completely, again, skipped over what I'm trying to discuss, and that is the stack occurrence, right? I assume the general ruling by the community will be that each slot is counted singularly, right? Not the cards in the slot. So for instance, you can have your head slot, chest slot, all of them built to max, right? So I'm talking base, then the 3 sets of the Sentry, the Evo Steel Song, and then 1 on top, right? So each of them can have up to 7 cards, meaning that you can put 28 cards under Teclovison, right? So you can get 14 procs of this action, right? Which is super strong. Means every turn you could basically just, if you're running blue, you know, pitch 3, you get all the procs from, I mean, that's an OTK right there, actually, right? If you put that many cards under him, you can just back-to-back swing for 6, make your opponent discard a card, and your mechanologist attack actions. Well, actually, that's the issue. You don't get go again. So you get the resources off the chest slot if you're using the steel memory. I am, again, worried. Does it count transforming it if it's not on the top of the pile? I have so many questions from this, right? I thought this was going to answer everything I was talking about, but it hasn't, unfortunately. Ugh, that is not a good thing. Because, again, if you're introducing something this big and dynamic, you gotta make sure everyone is 100% crystal clear with it. Okay. So this counts having 4. Nope, we don't care about that. Yeah, it's just... Okay, nope, lack of information. Adaptive plating, also don't care about. Twin drive. I didn't even look at twin drive. It has boost, so you just play it twice. Right, same with the one that has scrap. Block cards, okay. Well, why don't I... I'm gonna write down everything that I still have questions about, and we'll run through them quickly. I am a little disappointed that this does not clarify everything I would like it to. Oh, this is going to be an interesting pre-release. Okay, so starting off, right, this helpful diagram does highlight that the Steel Soul and the Sentry are base equipment and can be transitioned into your Evo cards, right? So you can go base into them, into one another. That's the little loop symbol, into your final pieces. So that's good, that's clarified. What it doesn't clarify is, again, the stack. So if you have these base cards, you then have these, you loop it as many times as you want. Classic constructed, you could do it 6 times, right? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then go into your final. So you could have 6 of these, 1 of these, and 1 of these, right? So that's 8 cards, not 7, I said before, 8 cards. So you can have 8 cards piled up, right? So your singularity is 4 Evos. And I am going to assume, right, where's the card again, so we can read it properly. Okay, transform your hero equipment and 4 evos you have equipped. So the equipped is the big point of contention there, right? So does having them on the board in an equipment slot underneath another piece of gear count as an evo, right? Or is it just the top card? So you have to have an evo in all 4 slots, but you could have up to, was it 8 by 4 now? 32 cards to put under Teklo Vossen, technically, right? That is the main point of confusion that I want to bring up and need some clarification, right? So yeah, I think that's pretty much just the big one that I have. What is this? What is this diagram? All right, because the nitro was another transform. You can use evos for it. There we go. From looking at this diagram, right? So I'm not gonna worry about that. Again, new mechanic. This is what needs to be discussed and made crystal clear, right? Completely. Same with so if it is destroyed, you lose everything under it, which is fine, right? The trigger mechanics, it says transform from or into. So in that scenario, I assume it has to be the top one, but whether or not it counts, again, for singularity. Singularity is really the main point of argument, along with the 4 or more, right? Does having a stack of evos in the equipment zone count as having them equipped, right? Just crystal clear, yes or no statement in this article would be very appreciated. And then, yeah, the other main point is this. This is a very open-ended one sentence that should be clarified a bit better. So when a base or any card is transformed and put under another card, becoming a subcard, it is essentially reset. It becomes a fresh card, not a blank card, right? And loses all of its counters and effects that apply to it before it was transformed. Now, and put under another card. Before it was, they're using transformed, okay? If they're using the term transformed, then that is the terminology on the Steel Soul set, meaning that even if it's a sub card, it is still being retransformed, right? That is the interpretation of this sentence. And that is, again, worrisome because this is a very, very open-ended sentence with a lot of interpretations. Again, fresh card, reset, loses all of its counters and effects that apply, right? Not counters and effects that applied to it before it was transformed. So in the case of the Cogworks, right, it says remove a steam counter. So you lose all the steam counters, so you can't activate that. But, right, we have many other cards that don't work like that. The Breaker set, for instance, if that is your second from top Evo, there are cards technically under it, so whether or not you can trigger its effect. I don't know. What do you think? Am I zeroing in on this way too much? Or do you think that we do need a lot more further clarification? Mainly on those 2 points. Again, how the 4 or more mechanic will work with a stack of Evos, along with this reset clause and becoming a fresh card. And whether or not, Singularity is going to be easy or difficult to pull off, right? I'm hoping that's easy, right? Because it seems like a great win con. If it's not, if you have to have, again, a chest, helmet, legs, and arms, all unique Evos, right? Just top card of each of them, then fishing for that is going to be a nightmare. And I don't think, in terms of competitive playing consistency, that Singularity will feature. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.